Welcome to Waypoint Real Talk, where we discuss real estate and your home. Let's get started with your hosts, Aaron Shishilla and Austin Heinz.
Welcome to the Waypoint Real Talk podcast, where we talk about real estate and your home. My name is Aaron Shishilla, and with me I have...
My name is Austin Heinz, and with us we have Annie and Kevin Rocks of the Rocks team. So they are a husband and wife team. They have massive success in new construction and selling homes in less than 28 days. And last year they were in the top 5% of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Realtors internationally. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Awesome. So, Aaron, would you like to tell us what we're talking about today?
Yeah. So today we're going to be discussing pre-listing inspections, the importance and success you've had with pre-listing inspections. And we're also going to be talking about phased inspections. So if any of our viewers do not know, phased inspections are pretty much inspections as a home is being built. So we're going to discuss some really unique insight to what you all have with using those types of inspections during your real estate transactions. Austin?
Yeah, so I'd like to go ahead and just start off with the new construction phase inspections. Just kind of give us a little bit of your perspective on what role those play into the home buying process and why it's important for a client to be getting those done.
Well, thank you. I think when working with any of the builders that we've worked with, we've had great success in partnering with you and bringing you to the buyer to help add the confidence level that they need. The builder will, of course, have inspections, and they typically have third-party inspections as well. But bringing in someone like yourselves helps to ease the buyer into making sure that everything's going okay and having someone on their side advocate for them. So if there is an issue with the first phase would be a foundation inspection. It's just another set of eyes that can come out and look at the plans, make sure everything's in place the way it should be, make sure that the form is correct. Here in Florida, the houses are dug, they're sort of tied down to the ground. So the foundations are dug 2 feet down. A lot of times when the construction crews come in and do that, something might get askew overnight with wind or rain. And just having another set of eyes before the concrete actually gets poured is really helpful. Also just ensuring that all the plumbing, everything that we said was going to be there in the initial design structural choosing of the options is actually there. Then we get into a pre-drywall stage. The one nice thing about that is, as you can see in everybody's house, once the drywall goes up, you can't see anything that's behind it. So a pre-drywall inspection is when you guys come out and you do sort of a complete overview on the framing, looking at the mechanicals in the house, electrical, plumbing, and the options again, where the options are, make sure that everything was done well and the AC ducts are where they need to be and secured the right ways. So the thing that I like about having you come in is because then if we do need to speak to the builder about something, we have your professional expertise behind us to help advocate for the buyer to make sure that the house is what it needs to be. So then they put the drywall on and it goes through the finishing processes. And we usually recommend a final inspection right before closing. And you guys are great coming in and looking at all and any sort of cosmetic defects. We had an inspection last week too, actually. One of them, all you found was a broken piece of framing. That was it, and that's unusual. Usually we have a lot more. The other one had just minor things, but as minor as they are, it's nice to have a list of things to reference. And it gives us a conversational point with the builder, so it's not just us coming in and seeing that crack in the garage floor or whatever. And then last, the inspections that we do recommend 10 months out. A lot of times the builders, or you guys might suggest 11 months. We always suggest 10 months out, that after you close, you have another inspection done, and just ensure that we leave enough time before that 1-year warranty mark is up, and we have time to communicate with the builder and do anything that's needed. We actually had that done in our own home. This is a new home that we're in, our home office right now. And I think we had a 37-page list from you guys for things that were found 10 months in. So, and some of it wasn't minor. I mean, we had just a little caulking leak. There was enough that it caused some trouble, but these are things you want to stay on top of, and working with you has been great to help us help our clients, and even in our own personal homes, because we have another house across the street that our dad lives in too. So we've
Her dad, not our dad.
well, he's your dad by now.
Just sounded weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification, Kevin.
I do what I can.
Yeah, thanks, Andy, for kind of, giving an overview of what the different phases are. We do a lot on our end to try and communicate the importance of getting inspections done even on brand new homes. It's great if you can get in during the different phases, because as you mentioned, we may catch something minor in a pre-drywall phase, but as soon as that drywall gets put up, it hides any potential issues. We always stress home inspectors can't see through walls. But if we can get in during a pre-drywall phase, it is kind of like seeing through walls to see what could be a problem later on down the road. So a minor problem today, 2 years from now, may develop into a major problem if it's not caught and addressed. So my question to you is, as an inspection company, we like to think we do a lot to try and promote new construction inspections. And we do a lot of that with promoting it to realtors. But what's equally as important are realtors communicating that to the clients and communicating the importance of getting those inspections. So what does that process look like on your end when you have a client who's wanting to go through the new construction, building process? And how do you communicate to them the importance of them getting their own independent home inspector to do that kind of, looking on their side to make sure that everything's being done properly?
Sure. Well, we have a process with our buyers, and we initially try to sit down with every buyer or seller and have that one-on-one dialogue about the expectations and the process to come. And in that initial conversation, we talk about the inspection process and the importance of it. We also let them know that it's completely up to them to decide if they want to do it or who they want to have do it, but we have recommendations for them and experience with different companies. And of course, yours is on the top of our list. We lay it out and try to explain the importance of having that advocacy, even having an agent helping. A lot of people don't understand why it's important to have an agent when you're building a new home, because when you go to the new construction home office with any of the builders, they have an agent there. So what a lot of people don't understand is that agent in the builder's office actually works for the builder, and we work for the client. So and the builder pays us out of their marketing budget. So it doesn't cost any more to have us help you through the process. But part of our helping you is helping you arrange the home inspections and then helping communicate if something's wrong. For example, we had one house here that David, one of your inspectors, was in and found that the framing on the wall between the garage and the kitchen was incorrect. And it took us about 9 days of advocating through the builder, up through the county, back to the builder, superintendent's manager, county inspectors, and all through that whole process, having me and David working together to advocate for the client really did make a difference. And the builder ultimately reframed the wall that they said originally they weren't going to do. So we've had several instances like that. The hope is that, like the home inspection that we had last week, where only one thing was wrong and it was a piece of broken framing, and the superintendent actually already knew about it and had it on the list to get fixed. that of course is the hope. But just in case that isn't the way that it turns out to be, then we're all here to help advocate, and we know the proper channels to push things through to get it done.
So I think I think it's sort of in the grand scheme of things, when you're talking about such a, for most people's largest expense they'll have, the peace of mind that comes from, like Annie was saying, having, a realtor as an advocate on your behalf during the sales process. And then the build process is a long time, and there's a lot of steps involved, and there's a lot of people involved, and there's a lot of human beings touching things, and none of it's nefarious, none of it's intentional, but stuff happens, stuff gets overlooked, plans get, things happen. So to have another set of eyes, and we just try and convey that to the people that we're working with, to help them get their goal of getting a new home and having it right, and not having to worry about things a year or two down the road. That now is the time to hit it hard and often, get every little nook and cranny looked at, checked out. It's not perfect, it's not flawless, nothing, there's no crystal balls, there's always things that can go wrong, but the more you look at something, the better off hopefully you'll be in the long run. So that's kind of the approach we take with it, and let them make that decision on their own, and most of them tend to make the decision to go ahead and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's a peace of mind, but more importantly, like Annie was alluding to, it's just more advocacy on this particular case, the buyer's behalf, on a very large, for most people's purchase.
Right. I have a quick question here. So you discussed how, David found some sort of framing issue with this particular new construction home. And we'll get into not phased inspections, but pre-listing inspections too, and how you found success with that. But quick question, is it common for you to have some type of, it seems like you're having some friction there with the builder as far as who is responsible for this, or if this is actually an issue, or if they're actually going to fix it. Is that something that's quite common?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that it's not common that we'll have friction. A lot of times they'll just explain why, this particular thing is done this way, and it makes sense. It's a change. It's in, obviously I think the inspectors learn a little bit too, because things are always changing, and kind of stay on top of that. But I wouldn't say we have very contentious things. Generally, they're pretty understanding and appreciative that there's another set of eyes. You'll run into stuff every once in a while.
That was an extreme example, but I think the builders have tolerances that they'll explain of what is acceptable and what's not. And then it just becomes a debate sometimes with David.
Is the buyer comfortable with that tolerance, or is David comfortable with
that? And in that particular situation, the wall needed to be reframed. I mean, there was no explaining out of it. So that builder, they all have a process. We're dealing with, we have some that are custom home, smaller builders, and that's a different story. But when you're dealing with a larger national company, they have a system in place, and we need to respect that system. If your inspector calls out a discrepancy, then we go speak to them, and on 95% of the time everything's fine, and we get it done and get it fixed. That was one of the times that we needed a little more push, and we got it, and we got it done. But most of the time, we don't have to do anything like that.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. So just one point to wrap this up before we transition to our game and then move to the next segment of pre-listing.
Okay.
I love a word that I heard both of you say a lot, which is advocacy. And you're an advocate for the buyer of that home, which is awesome. And you're, at the end of the day, looking out for their best interests, because I know in a lot of cases from our end, people that are building new construction, we find a lot of them are not living here yet. They're actually living out of state. And so they can't be there on a regular basis to check up on that home to make sure it's being done to their satisfaction. So they really are relying on you as their agent, and then a home inspector, if they have one, to make sure that their best interests are being protected. So I love that you use that word advocate, because that is truly the position that you're in, is you're making sure that that client is getting what they're wanting.
Well, that, and even if they are in state, there's a lot of builders now that have enforced policies that are very strict, that if you are at the house and you're not there for a particular meeting, that it's considered trespassing. So they want to keep their houses on track. They want to keep it in the system that they need to keep it in. And, you know, it's important to have your professional eyes on there too. I'll just share another story, like with our own house. I was here every day. I studied interior architecture and design. I know a lot about new home construction. We have new home construction specialist certifications. And I was here all the time, had a really good relationship with my builder. And I just thought that I did not need an inspection because I'm me. And that was when I had the inspection done 10 months in before the 1-year warranty. And there was a lot that was found on there that I was surprised that I can't see because I'm not an inspector. And also as a real estate agent, our hands are mainly to manage a transaction. We of course are here to advocate, and we go an extra mile for the buyer, but liability wise, bringing you in to help you be another advocate in your category of what we have to talk about only helps reinforce our ability to advocate for the client. If we don't have you, we're not home inspectors. And it doesn't matter sometimes if we see something that we're unhappy with or the buyer's unhappy with, sometimes we need that piece of paper from you.
Another nice thing is that we definitely take every opportunity we can, which is pretty much every one, whenever an inspection is being done on any of the properties that we're working with, that we go out there as well. So we're constantly, you know, not to be busybodies or
No, just
look over the shoulders too much, but we learn a lot too just by looking at things, and you know, we take a lot of that from that, you know, for as we grow too, in our level of knowledge and expertise and our ability to advocate better. We certainly learn a lot with that too. So we don't miss an opportunity to go look over any of the inspector's shoulders and take a look at the report as quickly as we can. So.
That's awesome.
We're here to
and I think
work together and be a bridge, you know, between everybody and make it easy.
Sure. I think Erin, didn't you show me that they posted on, was it Instagram the other day, of Steven at one of the inspections?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of those on Instagram, which is really amazing.
All right, so let's make our transition. So we're going to get into our game here, and Erin, I'm going to ask that you keep score if you can, as you usually do.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
I
All
got
right.
it.
Are we competing against each other? How does this work?
No, you can work
Oh.
together. All right. So we call it the Florida Man game. And essentially what it is I'm going to read some news headlines, and you have to guess, is that a Florida man or not a Florida man?
Okay.
All right. And I'm going to read 5. And if you get 3 of the 5 correct, we have a prize for you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you ready to get started?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. First one. Man calls 911 after being stalked by a pig.
I would say that would be a Florida man. Is it
Yeah,
a wild boar?
Yes. All right.
Yes. Florida
Yes.
man.
That is not a Florida man. That was an Ohio man. All right, that's okay. We can make a
We
comeback.
have pigs here in Starkey Ranch. There's wild boars.
Well, maybe we can make the next headline. We'll just take a trip up there. All right, next one. Man
You know what I
attacked
just
by
realized?
python. What's
I'm
that?
sorry. Does this show backwards?
No, I can see it the right way.
No, it actually
Oh.
sees. Yeah.
Okay, from my
Good.
point of view, it shows backwards. So
No, it looks
All right,
great.
good.
Switch your
Okay,
eyes.
great.
over.
Yeah,
Good
thank
job,
you.
Aaron. All right, next one. Man attacked by python hiding in toilet.
Yes.
Kevin, are you in agreement with that? We need a joint decision.
Yes.
That is a Florida man.
Yes.
1-1. All right, next one. Woman breaks into home, pets dog, and does dishes.
I mean,
Probably not Florida.
no, that's not weird enough.
Correct. That
That's-
is an Ohio woman.
It is
Yeah.
pretty weird though.
It is. All right, we got 2 more. All right, man crashes car into pizza restaurant, orders pizza.
Like a
He
boss.
ordered a pizza after he crashed into it.
Yep.
That's a boss move. I'll have to,
Yeah, I would say that might be
Yeah.
Florida. Okay, I'll go with yes.
That is not a Florida man.
Oh!
That was a
That's a-
Nebraska man.
Nebraska.
Nebraska. We have a tie.
So
You
this
have
is-
to get this last one right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Man arrested after giving aggressive wet willy.
Yes.
Well, that could be anywhere, but sure.
That is a Florida man. Yes. Yes. Good job. You won.
An aggressive wet
I
willy.
said yes to it.
Yay!
Yay. All right.
Congratulations.
You ready to see your prize?
Sure.
Sure.
We're gonna help you. We're gonna help you stay on top of social media trends here, specifically Instagram. So let me try and share my screen. Can you see that?
Oh, that's so cute.
So this is a trend on Instagram right now where you actually post this on your story and then you nominate other people to get their picture with their albums in it. So it's like a chain that goes around. So
Is that,
I'll send
is that
you this
Bill
by
Clinton?
email. It is. He's jamming out to your albums.
That's
All
a riot. All right, thank you.
So I'll send this to you so you can post on your Instagram and start your own
Okay.
chain.
That's really
Okay.
fun.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So we're transitioning to pre-listing. Aaron, would you like to lead us with the pre-listing conversation?
I would love to lead us. So obviously you've had great success with new construction, helping with your buyer. And as you pointed out, you're there for the buyer for free. Why not use
Yeah.
you in that situation? Now, coming over to the listing side, you again have such great success. I believe you mentioned on the interview that we had initially with you that you sell homes in less than 28 days, always. I think there was like one case
So
where it was
far.
over.
Yeah.
So far.
No pressure.
28 days
Simmer
was,
down now.
that was the longest it took us to sell a house. And that was over Christmas and New Year's. Yeah, but before
Right.
that, it was 19 days. That actually broke our 19-day streak. So now we have to stay 28 days. But
Man.
most of our
Well-
houses sell under 10 days. I mean, and by
10?
sell, I mean listed depending, and then it takes time to
Okay,
close.
right. Yeah, that makes sense. But so now the pressure's on. It's 28 days. So that's the number we're going with. But you mentioned how much success you've had with pre-listing inspections in this time to get a house to sell. Can you talk about that and why it's so important?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think I'll say a little bit, and then I'll pass the baton over to Annie. I think we did it ourselves on our home sale on our way here when we sold our home in Seattle, and I think for me that was like a really crystal clear moment on what a great idea that was to do, because you know just about everything about your house. And when that inspection's done, if that inspection's done afterwards, and I'll let Annie take that and run with it. But when it's going to come, what they're going to find. So you can either, address it beforehand and just remove that possible objection or chinky handle or whatever it is that needs to be sorted out before you even list it, or you just, it's coming and you're better prepared for it. When a potential buyer may do an inspection as well. So
Our goal really is to be as proactive as possible. So during a home, when you present a home to the market, we're selling a home. So in sales, there's always objections. What can we do to counter those objections before they come? We might not be able to control the fact that we have a high line power line next to the house that's just going to be there, and that's an objection that maybe would make a buyer not want it, but that's the way it's going to be. If we have a pre-listing inspection done, we're removing a certain amount of objections that we do have control over, because we can, number one, we know if there's going to be a $20,000 whammy that maybe the homeowner isn't aware of. And number two, we're avoiding problems before they come. So during a home transaction, when we do get that house to pending, so that 1 to 28 days to pending, which we don't guarantee, but we try for, when we do get to that point, the next period is called the inspection period. During that time, the buyer has a right to walk away from this house. So what can we do to be proactively trying to make sure that buyer doesn't walk away from this house and doesn't have a whole laundry list of things that they need for the seller to fix? We have a pre-listing inspection and get things maintained, have stickers on air conditioning units that it's been serviced. You know, there's a lot that we can do to avoid problems in a transaction and get that transaction to closing. And I will say we have 100% closing rate. So we don't have any houses that get to that point and then the deal breaks down. Another really interesting time, I like to tell little stories, and these are definitely outlier stories. This one is not something that happens all the time, but we had a house that we had a pre-listing inspection for in November. The house went on the market, I think in March, in Clearwater, and it was crazy. My phone would not stop ringing. It was a bidding war. By the end of day one, we had 11 offers on the table for that house, and we had the best offer with the right terms, cash buyer, coming from out of state, had not seen the house, but I had a video walkthrough, so they saw it that way. And they were offering, because the price was being driven up so high, it was not going to appraise. There was no way. So the offer was $320, I'll just hypothetically, and it would have appraised around 300, maybe 280 if we were lucky, you know, on a different day. But I was able to get the offer secured with an appraisal clause that said that we accepted the offer. If they wanted to have it appraised, we wouldn't guarantee anything over 280, and that we had a pre-listing inspection done, so we would want them to waive the inspection period. And we sent them the inspection and all the receipts of fixes, and they signed it. They wanted the house. We sold it for 107% over list price, locked them in. There was no as-is inspection period on that deal. So there was no way that buyer was walking away, and there was no appraisal done either. So they were locked in with a very large deposit.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And
Yeah.
I like how you used pre-listing inspections in a way that it's to help objections with the sale. So if you think of it as your house is the same thing as if you go to resell your cell phone
Exactly.
or your car, you need to
Yes.
make sure if the brakes are bad, you need to upgrade them, and then you could sell the car for even more for
That's
what the labor
exactly
you
right.
put in.
Well,
So
and it
with
might not be more, but it might be more appealing and sell
yeah,
faster.
very good point as well. So I love that aspect of pre-listing inspections. Now, I also want to talk about, and we can tie this into your style of doing real estate, which we discussed previously, which is being proactive rather than reactive. How you wake up in the morning and you view your day. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I'm the type of person. Sorry about that. That was actually one of our sellers calling. Can you text her and let her know we're out of
I gotta work real quick.
Yeah, we have a
11 offers.
seller that needs us. Like, we knew she was about to call, but we were hoping we could get through the interview. Let me get my train of thought. Oh, well, I mean, we work really hard at our life. Kevin retired 24 years active duty Coast Guard, and I was there, met him before I didn't even know what the Coast Guard was. I dropped him off at the boot camp bus at 4 in the morning after he told me he wanted to go in the Coast Guard. So we've been married 25 years, and during that time, we've endured a lot of separation from each other, separation from family, living across the globe and internationally, or me being in one spot and him being in the Middle East. I've had babies by myself, and just had to do what I had to do to make life work. And I think with all that said, like, I have a drive, and Kevin matches it, to be better every day. That's something that we've taught our kids. Whether I feel like it or not, you know, exercise, eat right, be on a routine, have a success game plan, goals, and priorities are really important to us. So being proactive about our life personally kind of dictates how we handle the business calls when they come in, as it's unexpected stuff happens all the time. So the more proactive we can be, the more prepared we are for those times when we do need to have a reaction to something.
Right. That's a very good mindset to have, especially being routined, being structured, waking up in the morning and saying to yourself, I want to be better than the day previous. And I think you've translated that into your real estate business to say, hey, these types of inspections we need to do. Now, Kevin, did you have more comments you wanted to make in this aspect?
No, I think she captured it pretty well. I mean, I think we've moved a lot over the years, and
A lot.
a lot, almost a ridiculously large amount of times. And we know the pain of it, and we also know the joy of it. So it's I guess helping just kind of keeping the priorities on the goals and what it is that, it's not about the transaction as much it is about helping people get to meet their goals, right? So, and it sounds a little cheesy and campy, I guess, but it's honestly how we feel about it, because we know how painful it can be if it goes wrong, and even if it goes right, it's still painful because you're still
it's a stressful
doing
moment.
stuff and moving things and rearranging things and painting things and all the stuff that goes along with moving, and all the expenses that go along with it too. I think a lot of that stuff gets lost on how much getting new ceiling fans and light fixtures and stuff really equals when you transition. So, we try and be cognizant of that and share as much of our life experience as possible. And it's a pretty copious amount. It's not everything, and we've lived our life and we only have our experiences, but it's probably involves more moves than the average person. And so we just try to impart that. And right, and just that's pretty much kind of what we focus on. So for us, it's not so much about the numbers and the transactions, and that's all great and all. But
something we look at after the fact, and we're like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
But during, our primary focus is on the people and
getting them to where they want to get.
Coupling our personal experience with our professional experience to, again, be proactive, be an advocate, help usher them through the process, and try to discuss as much ahead of time as possible, because when those stress levels raise, we sort of have already discussed these moments that are to be expected. Everybody handles it a little bit differently, but we're here, to finish it and help get you to the finish line.
Right.
One thing, Aaron,
right.
if I can mention real quick that I think is pretty cool. We've seen it from the others that we brought on the podcast so far as well, is there's a common theme of legitimately wanting to help people. Like, that's what you want to do at your core. And like you said, Annie, like, the numbers don't matter as much. Like, you may look at that after the fact, but at that point in time, you're looking at that person and how you can help them. And so I think that's going to be a common theme we see moving forward, is all of the really successful real estate agents are doing it because they actually care. Now, that may sound like it should go without saying, right? Like, you should actually care about helping people. But the ones that are truly successful in leading the game and like top in the numbers in their offices, like, they are the ones that actually have a passion for what they're doing. And I think that's a lot of what's driving their success, is they're not viewing it as another number or another transaction, but they're viewing it as, that's a person that's having a journey, and I'm here to help them along that journey in any way that I can.
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point. And I had a client reach out to me today, and she said that, she was thinking about me, and that she knows this isn't really something that, maybe because it's not a real estate related thing, but it was involving the stress of the move. And she wanted to just at least reach out and see if I could offer any words of wisdom for her. And, sometimes that's what it's about. It's not necessarily the transaction and the real estate world. It's, being there when you really need to express yourself, or something is really stressful. And the psychology behind moving, I think, impacts people on a primal level, because it involves shelter. So if we think of the things that we actually need in life, like food, shelter, water, money, we're sort of touching on a lot of different things at that time. And many times when people are moving, it's when there's a job change, or they've had a baby, or there's a death in the family, or a divorce, or something that's very traumatic, and it's causing a shift that makes you have to move. So it's kind of usually stacked on top of other things. But we're here. I mean,
sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not so fun, but
we're here to help.
Yeah,
even if it's not fun, we love what we do. We go to bed every night trying to think about what we can do better the next day and how we can help more.
I think that's a really great attribute to have, especially in this type of business. I'm going to let Austin conclude here, but before I pass it off to Austin, I want to say thank you so much for coming on this podcast. We truly, truly appreciate it. And thank you for taking part in the social distancing aspect of Waypoint Real Talk. This has definitely been an interesting time as far as getting the setup and the recording right and everything else. But I'll pass it off to Austin so he can conclude us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So like Aaron said, thank you for joining us. And my last question to you is, if anybody who's listening to the podcast right now wants to find you, how can they do that? Website, Facebook, Instagram? What's a way someone can get in contact with you?
Well, it's always good to remember therocksteam.com. Super easy. We have the Rocks Team Realtors on Instagram, the Rocks Team Realtors on Facebook. We are available by text, 727-777-3264, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger.
we've embraced social media.
Yeah.
Well, she has. I'm just eye candy. That's what I tell everybody. I just look good under her shoulder, under her arm there.
And our emails are super easy to remember. Annie at therocksteam.com and Kevin at therocksteam.com. So try to make it easy. And
so we can't find you anywhere, is what you're saying.
There's
no way to find you.
A bus bench near you.
Yeah, actually, we can play a little game. There's 6 bus benches here in Pasco County. If somebody wants to go find all 6 of them, we'll give them a prize.
Ooh. Aaron, I know what we're doing tomorrow.
Yeah. How much are we talking?
Yeah,
we're not going to post this podcast. How much are we talking?
That's so funny. You got to find them to see, but I would say I give a Wayfair connection that I have for a major deep discount and potentially a gift card.
Aaron, I think I know what we're doing tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to use my Waypoint hours for it as well. So
okay, we can talk about that offline. All right, Thanks Annie and Kevin for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
All
Take
right,
care.
talk to you later.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.